And then this is bait for me. Delve into the complex, bloody history of the Shattering and discover the lost secrets of the demigods and their kin. That is what I want to be doing, and I'm glad that they've personally given me a shout out, and all the other lore hunters. Why, hello there. It is 200 days until Elden Ring comes out on January 21st, 2022, and this is the Elden Wait. Today on the Elden Wait, we are going to look at a new section that appeared on the Bandai Namco Elden Ring official website that goes over some more like story information, but also includes a lot of sort of subtle references to mechanics and stuff. And I just wanted to take a look at that and see what we can pull from that. A lot of it is refresher of stuff we already know. Sometimes it's stuff we thought was most likely true that is stated more plainly. Either way, it's interesting to take a look at, so let's get into it. So this section is entitled Tarnished of the Lands Between. And this is under the, the key features section of the EU Elden Ring website for Bandai Namco. And let's just start reading through it. The Golden Order has been shattered. Throughout the lands between, demigods holding shards of the Elden Ring squabble and make war over the ruins of a perfect realm, now abandoned by the golden guidance of the Greater Will. So in this first sentence here, I just wanted to bring up that we already figured, but it wasn't stated so plainly. The demigods in the Shattering each took a great rune or a shard of the Elden Ring, and they are at war with each other, which wasn't so plainly stated before, but is sort of plainly stated now that it's sort of a power struggle between these demigods that are all part of this royal family, as they will state later. And they're all offspring of Queen Marika the Eternal, who is not mentioned here, by the way. But the other thing I just want to mention is it's so evocative that the lands between was just like this perfect place. And they ruined it in this, seemingly this like striving for more power by taking the Elden Ring and using it directly for power and instead of just letting it bless them. They ruined this perfect realm in the Shattering by taking pieces of the Elden Ring and using it for their own means instead of just letting it exist. And that's just evocative to me because it's like this sort of this like Eden story, just it's very tragic that this perfect realm of the lands between was just ruined by these demigods striving for power. And as a result, they were abandoned by the Greater Will. As the echoes of this conflict, there's a slight spelling error there. Thunder in the distance, an outcast arrives. Once their ancestors called the lands between home, but the blessed light of grace was lost to their tribe long ago, and they were expelled from the kingdom. They are the Tarnished, and they have returned to claim the Elden Lordship promised to them by legend. So there's a couple things here in this paragraph that I just wanted to take a look at. I think the word choice when they say that the blessed light of grace was lost to their tribe long ago, we know that the Tarnished are those who, they lost the golden aura, and they were exiled, I guess, as a result. And I've been under the assumption that it's not quite, that it wasn't just this random thing, that there was a reason, there's context for why they became tarnished. And I'm just curious that when they talk about this tribe, I wonder if it's a certain group or faction of people who did something, or there was some action in which they lost the grace. Because it's clear here that like the Greater Will abandoned them when the Elden Ring was shattered. So the Greater Will has some, it provides guidance. It has some sort of, authority. It has a will, obviously, and it chooses. So I wonder what caused the Tarnished to be sort of shot, to lose the golden aura and as a result exiled. In this case, when they say the grace was lost to their tribe long ago, it might be a reference to the fact that your character is coming from a line of these, ancestors who were tarnished. So by tribe, it just might mean, like the family that resulted after, the generations that came after the tarnished, because who knows what happened once they were exiled, what sort of life they lived, and then so they these families may be these tribes of tarnished. So just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing that I found interesting in this paragraph is they have returned to claim the Elden Lordship promised to them by legend. And what that made me think of like when was so the Elden Lordship is promised to the Tarnished by legend. Like, where did this legend come from? Is this their ancestors, the Tarnished, promising them? Is this like a family saying, sort of like Oscar of Stora in Dark Souls 1 says that he has this family saying, and then goes on for this long ass thing about ringing the bell, and there's a chosen undead, which we know ends up being like propaganda. So I just wanted to keep that in mind. There's this promised legend about being the Elden Lord, and I could see that also being some sort of propaganda. But as I mentioned before, it's interesting the context in which the tarnished were created, what circumstances led to them being tarnished in the first place, and when did this legend come into place. Just sort of interesting to think about if it came from the tarnished passing that down to their kids as some sort of like, we will reclaim this. What did they do? Did they have some did they vie for power and they became tarnished as a result and were exiled? Or I've held as sort of this headcanon, this potential sort of theory that maybe the tarnished were even planned as like a failsafe, and that they could be brought back in case the demigods, in case Marika's children ever shattered the Elden Ring, or if the Elden Ring was ever shattered or it was taking control, that the tarnished were put in place as a safeguard to come back and then claim that. So we don't know enough details yet, but it's interesting just to think of different ideas and what could be going on here with this legend and why they are promised this Elden Lordship. This is the world of Elden Ring. As a tarnished, the lands between await your exploration. You will ride through vast fields, gallop over rolling hills, and leap to the top of rocky crags on your ephemeral steed, revealing a world teeming with life and danger. And I don't have too much to say here, but I think, as we will see in this, there's these subtle references that I think do tie into the gameplay and mechanics that are pretty well done, I would say. Like, your ephemeral steed, like, ephemeral is like fleeting, like disappearing, and as we know, your steed it disappears when you jump off of it, and it can just go away. It's this ethereal creature. And so I just like how they put that in there as just sort of a nod towards the mechanics of the game in this otherwise sort of story. It's supposed to sort of evoke atmosphere and what you'll be doing, but it also gets at some gameplay. And I am excited to be in a Souls world that is teeming with life and danger. You'll have these Souls worlds have always been these dead places, but this place being alive, and then they'll go on to describe the creatures in the next paragraph, but just teeming with life is so exciting. And with it being open world and some of the things that they get into and evoke in the next paragraph, it's just exciting because it's not this completely dead place. It's a ruined place for sure, but it wasn't ruined in just that everything's dead, but also some things have flourished sort of as a result, or the shattering has, there's still life. There's grass and wildlife everywhere, even if civilization itself has fallen apart. In the grand fields where your journey begins, mythic creatures prowl the velds, ineffable horrors lurk in the bogs and marshes, and all manner of soldiers and itinerant warriors are waiting for those who wander unawares. Shy creatures nibble on sweet grasses or scuttle through the underbrush. There's a lot of good words in here, a lot of flowery language, which I enjoy. One thing that's jumped out to me was I wasn't sure what a veld was, and I looked that up, and a veld is this region in southern Africa. It's a series of plateaus that are at different elevations. Like, there's the like the middle veld, the high veld, the low veld, but it's such a specific description that I do wonder if it was a cited inspiration for some of that grassland we see. I'll put up a picture in post here, but so the this is obviously this series of plateaus, and it's just a nice word to use, and I'm excited to see the mythic creatures. We see that the wyvern from the gameplay trailer seems to be in this region, and I would describe as a mythic creature, and I wonder what else is waiting for us there. And then the ineffable horrors and the bogs and marshes. There's that one screenshot of that creepy thing that looks to be in like a marsh or a bog at night, and that's indicative. And then there's also that giant like Cthulhu enemy, which sort of brings up the idea of an ineffable horror. And then they say itinerant warriors, which itinerant is like roaming or wandering, and is another section where I think they may be hinting towards gameplay a bit with the roaming enemies, like we've seen the carts, but there might be other groups of warriors roaming around and waiting for those who are wandering around unaware. And then you have shy creatures nibbling on sweet grasses, and I couldn't help but see the word, they're nibbling on the grasses, and we sort of seen it looks like maybe there's like berries or something that look like something you might pick out in the world for healing items. As we know, Miyazaki mentioned like crafting healing items as you go. And when I saw nibbling on sweet grasses, I immediately thought of Demon Souls, in which I nibbled on many grasses over the course of my playthroughs. And then this is probably reading too much into it. Scuttling through the underbrush feels, even though it's referring to these shy creatures, just some of the stealth, how you have those tall grasses in this underbrush where you can sort of hide and take on enemies. So I just like that attention where they continually do things that sort of inform or evoke ideas of gameplay. Those few inhabitants who are not mad or hostile linger near the broken remnants of cities left behind by the shattering. They may have answers for you if you help them. Above them all, ensconced in vast legacies bristling with traps, secrets, and guardians, the demigods, warped lords who began as members of a royal and noble family, rule their domain with the unyielding power granted by the shards of the Elden Ring. And there's a few interesting things to bring up there. I you figure, but it's nice to see sort of a confirmation that, you'll have these mad or hostile enemies, but there will be inhabitants of the lands between who are friendly to you, and they may have answers for you, which sound to me like if you help them, which implies to me, you got some NPC quest lines that will be in the game alongside other tarnished who have come to the lands between who you will interact with. And but it's also interesting, these inhabitants who are not mad or hostile, and it just makes me think of how this grace being removed. I don't know, what is causing the madness. Is it just the trauma of this terrible war, the shattering, which has clearly ruined cities through the war, and it seems like even the land itself, there's been some upheaval of the geography because of the shattering. You can see in the gameplay trailer moments where buildings have, sunken, been destroyed. There's also chasms that appear that buildings were once standing where that chasm now is, and they've fallen in or partially fallen in. So it's a pretty messed up world, and I wonder too, like the tarnished seem to have kept their minds when this golden aura was removed, but I do wonder if the withdrawal of the greater will because of the shattering, the war that occurred when the Elden Ring was shattered, if that removal of this grace also has had a detrimental effect on the minds of those who are around and has had a more direct effect on their mental state, if that has caused some of the madness that is being talked about here. So it's just curious. There clearly seems to be stuff where perhaps enemies who are dead are now living again, or they did not die when they should have. So, that could also cause madness, just that undeath, going back to Dark Souls or just zombie media, have that just when you should have died, but now you're alive again and you don't come back right. And you're sort of transformed in a negative way. And now let's go down to this next paragraph. We have a picture here of 11 Queen, or the many armed lion castle person who is either a lord or trying to do a great impression of a lord. This ineffable large Cthulhu enemy, and then we see a summoned bird spirit fighting against some of these stock soldiers with the Morian helmet and the serpent shield, and then a giant wielding a crude but large blade. And then we have this second set of paragraphs. The guidance of lost graces, should you find them, will put you on a road to retake these lands from the demigods through might and magic, but you need not follow their path. The choice is yours. Do you crave power or do you seek understanding? Decide for yourself, then build your character as you see fit. A lot of this is obviously getting at, choice of gameplay, and you can choose to follow the main path or to wander around. But I like how the choice is like, you can build up your might or you can seek understanding, because that's bait for me, because obviously I want to seek understanding. I want to know what's happening in this world, what's going on. So, they're speaking to everyone here. Try dozens of skills and find one to best suit your style. Practice stealth to avoid danger or catch enemies unaware. Use the environment, the weather, and the time of day to gain an advantage. Learn the art of combat, where you must read your enemy's intention, and a well-timed dodge or parry could be the difference between life and death. Ride your steed into battle against mounted mercenaries and cut them from their horses. Master arcane spells from the masters that still linger among the ruins of the war. Summon familiar spirits to even the odds against you, or call on your fellow tarnished to fight at your side and share the burden as you explore. Or delve into the complex, bloody history of the Shattering and discover the lost secrets of the demigods and their kin. All these paths are possible and more. Ultimately, your journey will be defined by the strength of your own ambition. The greater your goals, the greater the challenge will be. Should you choose to claim the lands between as your birthright, then yes, you must fight. And yes, you may die, but you will return to fight again, for that is how a champion or a lord is born. That is a good paragraph with a lot of stuff in there that I would like to unpack, but it's a mix of mechanics, just talking about the different, they're talking about the different ways you can do stealth, how you can use the environment, the weather, and the time of day, which is exciting because, I'm curious, because we know weather and time of day may affect the visibility, which will tie into the stealth system, which could give you an advantage. Learn the art of combat, where you must read your enemy's intentions, a good dodge or a parry. So, I think parries will be in there. I assume they will be. So that's sort of a confirmation. I like the idea of unmounting your enemies, knocking them off their horses, and mastering arcane spells from the masters that still linger among the ruins of the war. Very interested to see what magic, what role it serves in this world. Omnipotent mentioned how that sort of tied to different philosophies, so I'm excited to see what that is like in the game. And then we've seen from the gameplay trailer, and Miyazaki explains in the interviews, summoning enemy spirits to even the odds. You can bring some buddies along with you. You can even upgrade them, like weapons, Miyazaki mentions in his interviews, to help, even the odds. And then this is bait for me. Delve into the complex, bloody history of the Shattering and discover the lost secrets of the demigods and their kin. That is what I want to be doing, and I'm glad that they've personally given me a shout out. And all the other lore hunters. So this is just kind of a hype paragraph, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. And, just the fact that they mentioned again, like, should you choose to claim the lands between as your birthright, then yes, you must fight. That ties back in the idea of the legend of Elden Lordship. And what is it about these tarnished that gives them the birthright? Is that someone from the lands between? Or is there something specific about the tarnished and their circumstances where they had this chance for power and they lost the golden aura and were exiled? Like, I'm just super curious. We don't have the answers yet, but it's something that I keep picking up that I just want to highlight as a mystery, or something that seems pretty interesting to understanding sort of the political environment of the world. I also like that there's these demigods, these warped lords who began as members of the royal and noble family. Like, it seems, like they were warped. And, if the many armed guy is in fact a lord, but very obviously warped by having all these things. But, we've seen glimpses of like wolf people. Were they always wolves, or is this another way of being warped? And I think it is worth again mentioning that Marika is not mentioned through all this. It is all about her children and this royal family and getting these shards of the Elden Ring and squabbling with each other and fighting and vying for power. And, so I'm very curious what Marika, as the ruler of this kingdom, like, what is she doing? What are her thoughts? What is going on with her? Was she for the shattering? Was she against it? Like, she's really off to the side in all of these sort of story explanations, which just builds my interest in what Marika is doing, her relationship to the greater will, and just like how she is involved in these events. So that is the new information. A lot of it we knew, so some of it is stated more plainly, but otherwise it was nice to look into this, sort of go over some stuff again, get some new tidbits or some stuff that is written in a different way that sort of helps inform things. So I'll be interested to see what else they bring. I would have loved if they had some new, concept art or new screenshot or something along with this, but it's okay. They have all week. Maybe they'll grace us with some new stuff but before Gamescom. But I'm hoping we get a little bit more in July and they keep this nice little trickle that they've had going out. So there you have it, and tune in to the next Elden Wait, see what other information there is as we count down toward the release of Elden Ring. And also on Wednesday, I believe this week, what I'm doing is I'm going to start streaming Bloodborne, and that is part of a Patreon goal that was met. I'm going to do a Bloodborne Let's Play, and I might do that as a streamed service, and I'm going to have the first one as public, and then, at least at the moment, the way I have it is that the rest will be for patrons. But I will be doing that just to see if anyone's interested in sort of the atmosphere of that playthrough. So you can tune in. Anyone can tune in on Wednesday to check that out. So be on the lookout for that. And otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're looking for more Elden Ring and Souls content. I also do stuff like The Hunt, which covers the Souls games as well, taking a look at various, theories that content creators have come up with, as well as just looking at through lines through the series and from software in general. So I think it's a good series and worth checking out if you like what I've done here. It's a little bit more put together. Or, of course, the Elden Ring So Far series I do, which collects information. And I think with this, I may do a story one now. I think we have enough sort of official information where I could do a good story video. So be on the lookout for that. And with that, I will see you for the next Elden Wait.